But with AI, I'm not sure if it's going to be a positive thing or a negative thing for humanity and for the world in general. But whatever happens, whew, it's going to be crazy to witness all of this taking place. Hello, everybody. What's up? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night, depending on where you are and when you are listening to this podcast. And this is another episode of British English Pod. And in today's episode, this week's topic is all about the wonderful, scary, and perhaps intimidating world of AI, artificial intelligence, the technology that is all the rage at the moment. It's so trendy. It's what everybody is speaking about. It is, so to speak, the talk of the town. So that is what we are going to be speaking about today, with some expressions, phrasal verbs, a dialogue, debates, and much, much more. And, well, I'm going to cut to the chase. I'm going to get straight to the point and begin with the topic because, well, as I look in front of me at the time, I have right now exactly 43 minutes before I begin my next class. So there's no time to waste. I'm running out of time and I am speaking and working against the clock. So let's begin. And my first question is a nice way of just introducing the topic. And it is, well, how much do you use AI? How often do you use it? And how do you use it? This is a nice question for you. So let me know in the comments. How much do you use AI? And what do you use it for? For work? For speaking English? Let me know in the comments. And let me tell you about how I use AI, because I'm a little bit of an early adopter, in my opinion. Because I remember at my old company, maybe 3 years ago now, we started using ChatGPT. And the reason why we started using it was because of my friend and former colleague who's called Will. And Will was always looking into new technologies. He was always exploring the market to see if there were any advantages that we could gain as a company to get ahead of competition. So I think it was maybe in October of 2023, I suppose, when I think the first models of ChatGPT became popular and people started to hear about them. I think it was 2023. Maybe I'm wrong, but it sounds right to me. And he started using it to write reports for student progress. He started using it to help create Excel sheets. He started using it for a little bit of everything. There was even a funny time when he wrote his own books and put them on Amazon to sell. And of course, all of this was created using the early versions of ChatGPT. So it maybe wasn't very accurate. It was what we might refer to nowadays as AI slop, which is poor quality content that is just regurgitated by AI because everybody is asking the same things. So he did this, and I think he sold 5 books. So he definitely didn't get rich as a result, but he was a huge advocate for AI. And well, he convinced me to start using it as well. He persuaded me to start using it. So when I was in charge of creating all of the content, all of the PowerPoints for all of our classes, well, to save time and stop having to do repetitive things over and over again, I would ask ChatGPT to prepare a lesson plan with quizzes, example sentences, debates, a little bit of everything. And this was a lifesaver. It saved me so much time that suddenly, from manually creating every single lesson plan, I could create maybe 3 or 4 or even 5 in the same amount of time. And the only reason why it took me time is just because I had to transfer the information to different PowerPoints and add fonts, animations, and so on. So that's how I got into AI. But at the same time, I didn't use it that extensively. I used it, well, to save time on work. I didn't use it that much in my free time. And then I started practicing a little bit of Spanish and French, chatting with ChatGPT. And I was like, okay, this has potential. This is amazing. When I studied languages at university over a decade ago, none of this was available. It was so much harder to learn languages. And now, all of a sudden, I can open an app on my phone and I can start writing and having a bit of an artificial conversation. And I could do the same using my voice as well. So that opened my eyes to the possibilities of AI. And this was a couple of years ago. The amount that AI has changed and evolved and improved in such a short amount of time is a little bit scary, if you ask me. So nowadays, how do I use AI? Well, I continue to use AI to help me create these lesson plans that I use in the podcast and in my classes. If you want to join my classes, a link in the description, as always. So that's one way in which I use it. Another way is when I'm brainstorming ideas for videos. Well, I will ask AI to help me with example sentences or synonyms or antonyms because I consider myself to be a creative person, but my creativity has limits. In particular, when I'm very busy. If I'm very busy and I'm constantly in class or creating videos or editing videos, then I don't have the time to get creative and think outside of the box. I find that I become much more creative when I can just go for a long walk or I have a week off work and then ideas will come to mind. So those are two ways in which I use AI and other things nowadays. Whenever I have any random questions, I might ask ChatGPT or Claude or Grok. But above all, I'd say I use Gemini more than other platforms of AI. And you may notice that on my YouTube channel, I've started creating thumbnails as well using AI because I'm definitely not a graphic designer and my design skills are not the best. So I keep these podcast thumbnails very basic, very simple. But when I post a different video, maybe on Sundays, I like to mix it up and get AI to generate the image for me. Sometimes it works well, and other times it doesn't work at all. So, honestly, I use AI for almost everything nowadays. And Google isn't Google anymore because I don't know if you remember, but when ChatGPT became popular, people were saying that this was the end of Google, that everybody would stop using Google. And as a result, the stock of Google absolutely plummeted because people thought that the company was going to be replaced by artificial intelligence. But what people were unaware of is that Google, behind the scenes, had already been investing so much money and doing so much research to try to ensure that they would keep up with the competition and perhaps even surpass the competition. So when you Google something nowadays and you search for something, you always have an AI generated response as well. So you can choose if you want to do it the old fashioned way or if you want AI to sift through all of the information and then produce a response for you. So it's mind blowing. The capabilities and the possibilities of AI are absolutely mind blowing. Now I'm rambling a little bit. I'm going off topic and on a tangent slightly, but I think I know quite a lot about this topic. I have an artificial intelligence application where you can practice your English as well, and it uses lots of generative AI to keep it running, which again, mind blowing. But there's an interesting interview that I watched maybe 6 months ago, and a lot of the big tech bosses say a similar thing. And it is that nowadays it is easier to become an entrepreneur than it ever has been. And it's easier to generate wealth than it ever has been. And to a certain extent, I agree with these interviews and these remarks, these comments, because we don't need to hire lots and lots of people anymore. You don't have to depend on the workforce to be able to create a successful and profitable business. Because AI, unfortunately, depending on your opinion, has the ability to replace workers. And you can generate videos, you can create websites, create applications, create images, you can have your own agents as well, which can essentially do parts of your job for you. So I think Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, all of these mega rich people have said that we only have a few years for people to be able to generate wealth and set up lots of companies before AI will start to dominate everything. And that is inspiring, but it is equally scary. It's just a prediction, so I'm not sure whether it will come true or not. But again, now the ball is in your court. After my long rant, what do you reckon? What do you think about AI? Do you think that it's going to take over everybody's jobs? Or is it going to be an amazing help to become more productive, more creative, and allow us to live better lives? Because throughout history, every technological breakthrough or advance has enabled us to live more comfortable lives. If we think about when we were cavemen or we were hunter-gatherers, and then we had the Industrial Revolution, where people would just have a 9-to-5 job. And after that, then office work. So all of these revolutions or evolutions in society have, generally speaking, allowed us to have more time off work and a higher quality of life. We can debate and discuss whether recent innovations such as social media and addiction to our phones has actually been a good thing or a bad thing. And I think I agree with many pros and cons with this innovation. But with AI, I'm not sure if it's going to be a positive thing or a negative thing for humanity and for the world in general. But whatever happens, it's going to be crazy to witness all of this taking place and see history in real time and how things are changing at the speed of light. So that is an introduction on how I use AI and a little bit of an overview of my opinions of AI in general. So I apologize if I went off on a tangent and I was rambling, but you could tell that I felt inspired. But now let's break up this podcast, and that's enough of me chatting and going on and on and on. Now let's just go over 6 different expressions or advanced vocabulary. So on the left, if you are watching right now the screen, you'll see 6 different expressions, and on the right, you'll see their synonyms. I'm going to match them, do a gap fill, and then answer some questions related to these expressions. Feel free to watch, or you can just keep listening. So the first expression is to pull the plug. Pull the plug. What does it mean, pull the plug? The company pulled the plug on the project. The government pulled the plug on this new law. If you pull the plug, it means that you stop something or you cancel it. They pulled the plug. They cancelled it. The second expression is to open a can of worms. What did you do? You opened a can of worms. He opened a can of worms. So if you or someone else opens a can of worms, what it really wants to say is that you created a problem. You caused chaos, is another way of putting it. So many people believe that the innovation of artificial intelligence is going to open a can of worms for humanity. Then the third expression is to be ahead of the curve. To be ahead of the curve. This one, I reckon more than one of you will know it for sure. And I kind of said that I was an early adopter with AI. I think I was ahead of the curve. Now, I'm no expert, but I think I was ahead of the curve. And if you are ahead of the curve, you are, well, more advanced than others, or it's a way of saying that you were ahead of competitors or other people. So I think I was ahead of the curve in starting to use AI. Number 4, we have a double-edged sword. A double-edged sword. I've taught this on the channel before. A double-edged sword is something that has both pros and cons. It has positives and negatives, advantages and disadvantages. Artificial intelligence is absolutely a double-edged sword. There will be pros and there will for sure be cons as well. Then number 5 is cutting edge. Cutting edge. And this is an adjective. So the technology that Claude uses is cutting edge, meaning it's very advanced. It is high-tech, cutting-edge technology. This is a common collocation. And then, last but not least, to be on autopilot is to be operating automatically. And it comes from flying, where, as far as I know, pilots can stop piloting and being behind the wheel, and they can press a button, and then the plane just runs and flies on autopilot. So it does it automatically. Magic. If you have AI agents, then I'm sure they can do a lot of work for you on autopilot. Now, how about a gap fill, just to go over these expressions? And I'll let you in on a secret. Normally, when I record the podcast, I've already taught 1 or 2 classes using this new PowerPoint. But today, that's not the case. I designed and created the PowerPoint just a couple of hours ago. So hopefully I won't make any mistakes. So number one, businesses that adopt AI early are usually ahead of the curve. Businesses that adopt AI early are usually ahead of the curve. They are more advanced than others. Number two, using AI in hiring can open a can of worms regarding bias. So using AI in hiring can open a can of worms regarding bias. And bias is when you have a prejudice towards some people. I think there have been reports saying that, of course, AI is biased towards the English language because the majority of AI models and companies are based in the USA. But also, I think it can be biased to people who look like the designers of the AI model. So that's what it means by opening up a can of worms, creating chaos or a problem. Number three, the company pulled the plug on the AI project after safety concerns. The company pulled the plug on the AI project after safety concerns, meaning they cancelled it, they discontinued it, they decided not to move ahead with it. And number four, with AI tools, many tasks are now done on autopilot. With AI tools, many tasks are now done on autopilot, automatically. Number five, AI is a double-edged sword. It boosts productivity, but threatens jobs. AI is a double-edged sword. It boosts productivity, but threatens jobs. Number six, this company is developing cutting-edge AI tools for healthcare. This company is developing cutting-edge AI tools for healthcare. Fantastic. So there we had some more examples. So you can really see these technological expressions or advanced vocabulary in context, because context is very important. Context is key, you could say. Now, I'm going to answer a couple of these questions using some of this vocabulary. So the first one is with cutting edge. So what's the most cutting edge technology you've witnessed or used? What's the most cutting edge technology you've witnessed or used? Well, I've never been to one of those restaurants where you have robots serving you and taking your order. I've seen videos of this, in particular in Japan, for example, which looks pretty scary. I've also seen videos of Waymo cars, and Waymo also belongs to Google, is a side of Google's business where they have autonomous vehicles. So they have vehicles, they have cars that don't need a driver. And these are live in certain cities in the United States. They are testing everything. So it is possible if I think you're in Las Vegas, Los Angeles, or San Francisco to book using the app Waymo. And with that, a car will come and pick you up. But the crazy thing is that when you open the door to get into the car, well, there's no driver, which seems very creepy to me. It's like robots are actually taking over. So this, for me, is one of the craziest, most cutting-edge technology that I have heard of. But I've never actually witnessed it myself. But I have a student who, if you're listening to this, you'll know who you are, who told me about this technology and that he had actually gotten in one of these Waymo vehicles, which, I don't know how I'd feel about it. I think I'd be a bit creeped out, to be honest. But let's move on to another question. So let's go with. How about, do you think learning how to use AI tools now puts you ahead of the curve in your career? Do you think learning how to use AI tools now puts you ahead of the curve in your career? Well, not necessarily, of course. It depends, as always, on the career, on the industry you work in, because there are many very physical jobs like being an electrician or a joiner or a builder or a handyman in general, where you don't need AI. At least you don't need AI yet until we have more advanced robotics, which will be able to help in their job. But I would say that, for example, for business owners and entrepreneurs, learning how to use AI definitely puts you ahead of the curve because it allows you to save time. So, in many ways, save money and be way more efficient and productive. So, that's what really allows me to be so productive, because some people will tell me, like, Lewis, how do you manage to do all of these things? All of these daily videos, all of these classes, and the podcast? And well, I wouldn't be able to do anywhere near as much as I do now if artificial intelligence didn't exist, because it saves so much time. Of course, I can't replace myself completely because I need to keep showing up for podcasts and videos, and I enjoy this as well. But I could argue that another piece of cutting edge technology that I've used is me cloning my voice for my application. And it was so easy to do this. If you haven't tried it, by the way, check it out and you can try it completely for free. And you can download English with Lewis, the app, on Google Play or the App Store. But when it came to cloning and copying, replicating my voice, it was a piece of cake. Whoa, it was a walk in the park. It was so easy because I already had hours of content, hundreds of hours of content of me speaking and speaking and speaking and using lots of different words and expressions at the same time. So all I did was enter, I think, 10 different podcasts worth, and I put it into a system of artificial intelligence. It's a website called 11 Labs. And with this, after just an hour, it had analyzed my voice and managed to replicate it and clone it. Of course, it's not 100% perfect because this is technology which is still quite green. It's still quite new. So it needs to be polished, it needs to be refined, it needs to be improved. Absolutely. Just like every new technology. But when I chat to myself using my app, sometimes I think, oh wow, that does sound like me. That sounds great. That's crazy how I can clone my voice. And whether this puts me ahead of the curve compared to other teachers, I don't know. But I like to try new things, and I think you only regret things that you didn't do rather than things that you did do. So I'm open to trying new technology. Absolutely. Now, from there, let's move on. And, well, I've mentioned different companies already. You know that I like investing at the moment. So, which companies are dominating this field of artificial intelligence? Well, I said Google. Google is maybe one of the top players in this world because they create chips, they have AI models, it integrates into so many different platforms. So Google are definitely ahead of the curve. But of course, big companies like Microsoft are also dominating because Microsoft, in case you didn't know, owns 49% of OpenAI, which is the creator of ChatGPT. So Microsoft and OpenAI are also dominating. Then, of course, Elon Musk and Grok, SpaceX, and Tesla, they're involved in this fight as well. And then you have Meta, so WhatsApp and Facebook and Instagram and Threads. They have their own AI models at the same time. Then you have Chinese competitors also involved in this industry. You have lots of semiconductor companies that are all investing huge amounts of money in the AI race to see who is going to triumph and who is going to come out on top when all is said and done. Because of the power of this innovation, huge companies are investing trillions of dollars into chips, semiconductors, AI models, you name it. So much money is being spent on this. So those are just a few of the companies that, in my humble opinion, are dominating at the moment. But from there, let me read out a nice dialogue. And this dialogue is between two people, Alex and Sophie, and they chat about AI in general, about the positives and the negatives and the future. And again, if you're watching, you'll notice that I have put some of these words in bold, so they stand out a bit more. And then we'll recap some of these words. So, Alex, I've been thinking a lot about artificial intelligence lately. Its potential is extraordinary, but so are the risks. Sophie, I agree. On the one hand, AI has revolutionized productivity. It can automate mundane tasks, optimize decision making, and even enhance creativity in certain contexts. Alex, absolutely. In fields like healthcare, for instance, AI can analyze vast data sets far more efficiently than humans, leading to earlier diagnoses and more precise treatments. Sophie, that's a huge advantage. However, I can't help but feel uneasy about the long-term implications. There's a real risk of over-reliance. If people become too dependent on AI, critical thinking skills could deteriorate. Alex, that's a valid concern. There's also the issue of job displacement. Entire industries could be disrupted, leaving many workers struggling to adapt. Sophie? And it's not just economic disruption. There are ethical dilemmas as well. For example, who is accountable when an AI system makes a flawed or harmful decision? Alex? Exactly. The lack of accountability is troubling. Plus, there's the danger of bias. If AI systems are trained on flawed data, they can perpetuate and even exacerbate existing inequalities. Sophie? Another alarming aspect is the potential misuse of AI. Deepfakes, surveillance, autonomous weapons. The technology could easily be weaponized. Alex? That's where regulation becomes crucial. Governments and organizations need to establish robust frameworks to mitigate these risks. Sophie? True, but regulation often lags behind innovation. By the time laws are implemented, the technology has already evolved. Alex? So we're in a paradox. AI offers immense benefits, yet it simultaneously poses significant threats. Sophie? Precisely. The challenge lies in striking a balance, leveraging its advantages while safeguarding against its dangers. Okay, there we have the dialogue between Sophie and Alex having a chat in a very educated and balanced way about artificial intelligence. Do you agree with any of the points that they brought up? Because some of them are quite worrying and troubling and alarming about artificial intelligence becoming weaponized. We are seeing this now on the battlefront around the world, that companies and regimes are using AI. At the same time, it's true that regulation often lags behind innovation. So we don't regulate it until sometimes it's already too late. And the huge issue of job displacement, that entire industries could be disrupted. So many people might be laid off. They might be made redundant because big corporations always want to cut costs to increase profits. And having AI, they're able to require so many fewer jobs. So, it's dangerous times and I'm an optimist. So I'd like to think that, as with any new technology, some jobs will be lost, but other jobs will be created. So then it'll be up to us to adapt to the new scenario, to retrain and learn new skills so that we stay relevant in this new AI-dominated world. But as I said, there were some of these words which I put in bold because I'd like to show you some synonyms to these words. So I'm going to say a synonym of one of the words included in the dialogue, which was in bold. And, well, I'll give you a few seconds to see if you can remember or think of a synonym which appeared. So the first one is boring. Boring. Was there a similar word in the text which meant boring? Yes, there was. It was mundane. Mundane. A mundane life. A boring life. After that, we have improve. Was there a synonym of improve, or do you know one? You might be thinking of enhance. Enhance. We can enhance our productivity. Then, a relatively easy one, for example. For example. What's another way of saying for example? You can say, for instance. For instance. Then the fourth one is uncomfortable. I feel uncomfortable about these technological advances. Uncomfortable or uneasy. I feel a bit uneasy about it. Ugh. Then the fifth is having difficulty. This is a verb. Oof, I've been having difficulty to do this task. In other words, I've been struggling to do this task. Then number 6 is defective. Defective. So the responses could be defective. The responses produced could be flawed. They contain flaws, errors, glitches, problems. Then number 7 is concerning. Concerning. The situation is concerning. But as they said in the dialogue, it was the situation is troubling. Troubling. Then number 8, to worsen. If the situation worsens, a nice synonym is it exacerbates. Exacerbates. Now, number 9, turned into a weapon. Turned into a weapon is to weaponize. Number 10 is reduce. The context was about reducing the risks. You could also say mitigating the risks. Then number 11, to fall behind or to be slower, about regulation coming after innovation, is that it lags. Regulation lags behind innovation. And finally, a way of saying like a contradiction or one thing that can't happen without the other thing is a paradox. It is a paradox at the moment. Awesome! Hopefully now you have learnt lots of new vocabulary. But let me finish with a few more questions, nice and quickly. So, the first question I'm going to ask and answer is, what tasks do you think AI already does better than humans? Now, I'm not going to say better, but I think that AI is perfect for doing repetitive, mundane tasks that maybe don't involve a lot of creativity, and it's just something that usually you would delegate to an administrative assistant or someone who might be an intern. So these repetitive tasks, I think AI can do better than humans because it's boring for humans. After that, next question. Do you think AI makes people more productive or lazier? Does it make people more productive or lazier? Here I think there is a big divide between ambitious people and maybe people who are a little bit lazier. So if you want to build something, like a company, for example, then AI makes you more productive without a shadow of a doubt. But in terms of studying, for example, I think it's clear that AI makes people lazier because we don't need to learn and research quite as much. You can just ask a question and bingo, you have an answer. And now we'll finish with this question. It is, how do you think AI will change your job or your future job? Ugh. I think I've mentioned this before at some point that teaching, I think, will be changed by AI. And I think a lot of people will choose to only have classes with artificial intelligence or applications. This is already happening at the moment because it's cheaper, of course. But there will always be people who want that human connection. And they want to actually have classes, chatting with someone, maybe sometimes in person as well, in a real place. So I think a lot of people who are maybe not well trained, then their jobs could be lost when it comes to being an English teacher or language teacher. And if you don't have your own marketing abilities, like social media, then your job might be lost as well, because people are not going to find you. But an important thing to highlight and finish with is that the more people focus on robots and AI and online things and your phone, I think the more other people will crave human contact. And we will crave real events, gatherings, communities, people. So I think, as with every different technological revolution, there will always be people who don't really like it, or it makes them really desire human contact as a result. And I think this is inevitable because human beings are social creatures. So, of course, there is room for more technology and AI, but it's never going to replace human connections. And I think that is a powerful way to end this podcast, which I really enjoyed because I love the topic. So I hope you enjoyed it as well. Now, I have my class right now. So thanks so much for watching or listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.